let's go ahead and move on to Bayard Rustin. Um, Here's a brother that I learned about researching A. Philip Randolph and his story, who connects A. Philip Randolph and Dr. Martin Luther King. He actually connects the two marches.
When Randolph was organizing this march in the 1940s, a certain young man who would become a driving force in the modern civil rights movement was organizing right alongside him. His name was Bayard Rustin. Rustin was born on March 17, 1912, in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Upon moving to New York in the 1930s, he became heavily involved in pacifist groups and early civil rights protests. And in the 1950s, Rustin developed a relationship with the young Martin Luther King Jr. and became one of his key advisors. He was a devout student of Gandhi's teachings and helped introduce Dr. King to the practice of nonviolent interracial organizing. He also participated in a predecessor of the Freedom Rides, in which young civil rights activists rode interstate buses into the segregated South to challenge the lack of enforcement of the Supreme Court decisions Morgan v. Virginia and Boynton v. Virginia, which ruled that segregated public transportation was unconstitutional.
So,
I'm sorry. So I do know Bayard. I've always, my brain says Maynard, but okay, I'm with you.
oh, okay. Oh, so you was talking about him then?
I
Because you
don't know.
said
I might
May.
have been. He's not one of the key figures that I've paid much attention to, but I am aware of him. So
Okay. Because you said Mayar. I know a Mayar Ruskin, but is this the same person?
I believe it's the same person.
Okay.
I was just
So
mistaken.
I have to introduce him to introduce this. And these have given me something to think about that we could always look back on history and always, nitpick it, right or wrong. We can pick and choose of, hey, that was messed up, and blah, 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 and everything else. We could be absolutely correct on our statements, but we also have to make sure that we put ourselves in understanding that time frame. Now, I wholeheartedly disagree with what happened to Ruskin. Of course, I do. And you will understand what happened to Ruskin when I play the next video. Do I have an understanding why it happened to him? Kind of. But again, I'm saying kind of because I, living in 2023, have to understand the mind frame of people in 1960s. And my mind frame and my philosophy and my thought process, right or wrong, can equate to the two. So, without further ado, so we can go ahead and get this over with, let's see what happened to Ruskin in 1960.
In 1960, Rustin was removed from many leadership positions. When organizing the March on Washington of 1963, then NAACP Chairman Roy Wilkins didn't want Rustin to receive public credit for organizing the march because, as Wilkins put it, quote, "This march is of such importance that we must not put a person of his liability at the head." The so-called liability he is referring to is that Rustin was gay. The decision was shaped by the idea that in order to make progress as a people, Black people had to present their best selves at all times. This is something known as respectability politics. According to respectability politics, the ideal activist should always be dressed well, speak in certain ways, conform to certain gender roles, and follow certain faiths in order to show that they were worthy of being treated with basic human dignity and respect. In the mid-20th century, the idea of having an openly gay man as a public-facing leader of the civil rights movement didn't fit into that ideal. Rustin was made to take a backseat, while people who did fit the image they wanted, like Dr. King, a straight, cisgendered, Morehouse-educated, PhD-holding family man who was also a pastor, were lifted up to represent the movement. But if you only present one version of Blackness at the forefront of a movement, then people might start to believe that only those who present a certain texture of Blackness are the ones who deserve the rights that you're advocating for. And this is not what freedom should look like. Real freedom means everyone gets free, no matter how you dress, how you talk, your level of education, or who you love. Thanks, Thought Bubble. So, all that to say, Bayard Rustin didn't always get the respect he deserved during his lifetime, but we can make sure that he is known for his important and courageous contributions today.
So here's the thing. Nothing he said was factually inaccurate. This is going back to like you were just saying, Marlon, when you gotta look at the time.
Yeah.
And then also let's widen the lens a little bit. Who's the enemy here? Who's the real enemy here? Okay. Who's the one who has developed and is sustaining and is enforcing the system that all of these actors, I mean actors as far as being part of the movement, not like they're fake, but that all of these actors were a part of. And that is white American patriarchy and white supremacy. That's the real enemy. So when you look at respectability politics, which I'm not a fan of, but you can't just toss it out wholesale because you are, once again, operating behind enemy lines. So what is going to get you in the position where your enemy is actually going to hear you? Now, I'm not saying this is the right approach because my personal approach is more on the Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey side. That's my personal philosophy. And I don't know if mine would work it out very well because mine wasn't the chosen one. Martin Luther King's version was the chosen one. But I can't say King was wrong, right? So I can't sit here and look at that and say respectability politics should be tossed out wholesale. Because the real opposition is white America. So if you wanted to be able to walk into the room, and to the extent that they would hear you, who are they going to listen to? Are they going to listen to someone who talks like Martin Luther King and has the background of Martin Luther King, who has the religiosity of Martin Luther King? Or are they going to listen to a James Baldwin? Or are they going to listen to a Bayard Rustin? They're going to toss those last two out immediately just because they're gay. Off top. Ain't nothing else they can say, right? So that's where respectability politics comes from. The reason it exists is because of who we're fighting against. You know, and then unfortunately, like we said, black folks, we are so Negropean that we have lost our identity all the way through this because it's so meshed. Whenever you're trying to survive in a system that is penalizing, that is actually criminalizing you even existing, you start trying to meld into the power structure and reflect that back to itself, because maybe then they won't hurt you. So you start to dress a certain way, so maybe they won't hurt you. You start talking a certain way, so maybe they don't hurt you. You start walking and talking and doing this activity and that activity. You do a mountain climbing and lacrosse and horseback riding, all the shit that traditionally we don't do. But it's so that you can kind of inculcate yourself into a situation where you're less likely to be harmed. So that's where respectability politics comes from. In my view, it's a survival tactic. It's just like the people who passed, you know, you just happen to be light. But we can look at you and be like, you black. So I know they know you black. But it was a social custom that would allow you to get a pass, right? So that's where I would come from with that. So is it right? Nah. But is it one tactic among many that had to play its role to get us to where you and I can sit here and we could have, if we had some members on here, like if there was a trans member of the family, there was a gay member of the family, there was any other members of the family, like Anna represents a different spectrum of the family. We couldn't even do those things right now, if not for those ones who did it imperfectly to get us here.
Yeah, that as we go through this history, I just want everybody to keep in mind. It's my opinion. I'm not Can't do nothing right or wrong, left or right, whatever to you if you agree or disagree with me. I'm just throwing it out there. Everything that we're doing in 2023, 2020, 2021, you get what I'm saying, was because we do look through history and we are allowed to pick and choose of, yeah, that's messed up. No, that's correct. Yeah, that's messed up. No, that's correct. So at the very least, we'll be now, sorry to say, that we're still advocating for the same crap that we was advocating back then for. We know, okay, I'm not going to do that because history's shown that that don't work. If we say it like that, got you. Understand. What I ask everybody to do is not to look back on history in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and 70s and look back and go, oh, that is just real messed up. That's why we go about a little bit. Hey. Everything that you're allowed to do right now was a sacrifice that they did, right or wrong. Now, the only thing that I can sit here, and I know I'm sound like I'm talking out of the side of my head because I talk about Jim Clyburn like he's, no, I'm actually believe he gets on my freaking nerves. Jim
He's
Clyburn,
just what?
he gets on my nerves here.
We can barely hear you going in and out.
Yeah, because you're fading out sometimes.
Yep, you fading out. That's what we like. What did he say?
Oh boy, this gonna sound real good in the replay. So what I was saying about Jim Clyburn,
he's a piece of garbage.
Disagree, but go ahead.
Now, I guess, but that's what I'm saying. Now, I don't like him now. But to say that he wasn't a force to be reckoned with then, that's incorrect.
Oh yeah, well I would say that. What the heck happened? I don't know.
But I can look back on him and tell him thank you for what you did for us then. I can. Now, do I want you to go sit your ass down somewhere and move out of the ways for progress? Yeah, I can still say that now too. And mean it. But I'm not gonna degrade what you did for us in the past. And the only reason I say that is because I saw a bunch of Facebook things on Black History that was just like, it's really nice of you to be able to say the stuff that you want to say now about people who didn't have the same ability that you have now. So, okay, just throw that out there. Just throw that out there. So,
like when we talk about Clyburn, think about the time that Clyburn grew up in. If you understand what created the man, you have a better understanding of the man that stands in front of you. You see what I'm saying? So he came up through whatever crap he came up through, and no one gave his generation much of anything. So I'm not a fan of Jim Clyburn anymore. Well, I was never a fan of him because I didn't even know about him until I became more politically aware. But I'm not going to denigrate that man. And while, yes, I would like someone else who is more aggressive, more engaged to take his seat, the operative term there is take.
Yeah, because
I'm not going to tell that. He shouldn't give it up. Someone should take it.
Yeah.
They didn't give it to his generation. Our generation coming up right now is so lazy. We got so many. I mean, I'm a talking head, so put me in this crew. We got opinions for days.